Today on Locked On Rockies, our friends at Fanduel have the win total for the Rockies' future. So I ask you, over or under 60.5 wins?
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 17th day of January in the year 2024. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here each and every day is talk Rockies baseball, bringing it all on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. You can help the show grow. You can tune into the video portion of the pod and take a look at my bright and shining face, if that's what you want to do. If you're wondering who I am your Rockies fan extraordinaire, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Rockies podcast. I have been following this team my entire life and been bringing this pod to you for over 3 seasons now. Today on the show, it's really a simple question here. Over or under 60.5 wins. That's what the FanDuel line is set for the Colorado Rockies right now here as of recording this podcast. So that's the big question today. We'll ask what the ceiling for wins is. Will it be worse than last year in terms of win totals? We're going to dive into all of that today. But speaking of FanDuel, they're today's sponsor, as today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. We're going to get started here. So if you head on over to FanDuel, you head on over the win total on the betting odds here. The Rockies are at -110 for over or under 60.5 wins. And if you're curious, the Rockies last year, I believe, finished with 59 wins. Was that? Yeah, 59 and 103. So that basically means that the Rockies are projected to be roughly the same team this year. In terms of the early projections, the FanDuel win totals there. And as we've talked about, we know the schedule is tough. We know the schedule is not going to be kind for the Colorado Rockies here. Just a reminder, if you missed that pod. In the first month of the season, the Rockies play basically nothing but playoff or teams that are hoping for the playoffs this year. Cubs, Rays, D-backs, Blue Jays, Phillies, Mariners, Padres, Astros. And the Astros series, which might be a benefit potentially for the Rockies, is in Mexico City. And then they do have the one game to finish up the month against the Marlins, of course, leading into the May schedule of Marlins, Pirates, Giants, Rangers, Padres, Giants, A's, Phillies, Guardians, and then their first game against the Dodgers opening the series. So this story is going to get told pretty early on, and the fact of the matter of how will the Rockies respond? I mean, these are playing these teams early in the season where teams are still getting going, teams are still figuring it out, teams are still making sure that they are going to be prepared, and really it might be different versions of the team, as we know that when teams get to the trade deadline, they're completely different. I mean, that's the thing that leads in with the Rockies as well. I would take the over on 60.5 wins, even with this schedule, even with the Rockies as currently constructed, even with the question marks surrounding the pitching staff, even with the question marks surrounding the players, because I think that this team was playing better baseball in the second half of the season than they were in the first half of the season, but they were dealing with the end of the season type of stuff. They were dealing with tremendous injuries. They were dealing with a completely overworked bullpen. They were dealing with a lot of things, But I think it's really important for Rockies fans to remember, and I know this is, again, rose-colored glasses and all that stuff, but there was a stretch in the second half of the season last year that we've talked about before, where this team was beating playoff teams, fighting for playoff spots for 7 or 8 innings. And then it all fell apart. And I know baseball games are 9 innings. I get that. But if we see this Rockies team able to take care of business, especially take care of business at home, which they weren't great last year, but they were certainly better than they were on the road last year. The Rockies 37-44 at Coors Field. It's I don't think it's that crazy to think that the Rockies can go 500 at home this year. I really don't. I think we're going, if we see the young guys become very comfortable playing at Coors, if we see them, as we talked about yesterday, the regress to the mean a little bit, while also still Nolan Jones is really the only regression thing I'm worried about, regression, quote unquote, because I really do think we saw something. We saw enough potential, not only with Doyle, not only with Tovar, but just overall with the Rockies in the second half of the season, that I think they're going to be the ones that steal the games from some of these players, from some of these teams. I think that a late Brenton Doyle diving catch in the outfield is going to win ball games for the Rockies in April. The Rockies didn't have that up until July of last year. The Rockies were still playing older, aging veterans that we knew their offensive output was already on the way down. So if this team is able to come out of the gates and start hot, especially while a lot of teams kind of, figure things out. April's always a weird month. The first, 3 months of the season are honestly kind of weird in baseball. But if the Rockies are able to come out as a team that's really gelling after spring, I think they're going to be able to surprise, not going to be overall competitive. They're going to lose a lot of games, but instead of us sitting there rolling our eyes in the 8th inning when the Rockies are losing another lead, I hope and I believe that this team will be the one that starts showing that they can. And then if they keep getting in those close races and close fights and they keep falling short, then the organization is going to see and know and understand that, okay, we know what we need to build on. We know that the foundation is legit. We know that we're going blow for blow with these teams. We're just falling short because we don't have that late offensive bat, because we don't have that bullpen, that bullpen piece. XYZ, then that's when you can be aggressive when it comes to the trade deadline and free agency. The reason why I am confident in this team going over 16.5. I ain't telling you. We'll dive into more of the ceiling, I guess. I'll tease that, I guess. I'm not saying this team's making it to the playoffs. I'm not saying this team's going 500. I just don't think, when I look at this Rockies team, especially when you have the eyebrow raise of the starters that the Rockies added. Seriously, are you more doubtful of Cal Quantrill and Hudson than you are of Chris Flexen and Chase Anderson? Like, are you really more like, would the Rockies bringing those guys back make you more confident in this team? I don't think so. I think that we got some guys that the Rockies, if they believe that if the Rockies see what they saw in Nolan Jones in a pitcher and they're able to bring him in, it could be exciting. I mean, we talked yesterday. I mean, Quantrill's projected to be the lead, the Rockies rotation in terms of WAR, not by much, but still be the leader in the rotation. That's some pretty high praise. It's not a big leap. It's not a high amount of WAR, but they're saying that the Rockies brought in a pitcher that's better than the rest of the pitchers they have on staff. Marginally so. Analytics splitting hairs wise so. But that's interesting. To see that on the projections yesterday makes me think that's interesting. If the Rockies get decent starting pitching, and I'm just putting the word decent there, then they're gonna be better than they were last year. They're going to win more than 60 games. Now, I don't think the ceiling's very high. Let's talk about that coming up here in segment number 2. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes Fanduel. We've been talking about Fanduel all morning long. We've been talking about Fanduel, the futures for the Rockies. And if you want to check out more futures that they got, player specials, player awards, best record, division winners, all sorts of great stuff available here for you at Fanduel. And that's just the baseball futures. They got tons more stuff going here throughout the regular season for basketball and hockey. They got you covered for postseason football. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app, it's super easy to use. There's so many different ways to bet. You can do the live same game parlays. I do love me a parlay. Find bets in the new Explore tab so you can see all the action that's going on there. And there's even the Parlay Hub where you can find the best and popular parlays if you don't want to go with the live same game ones, and lots more. Visit fanduel.com/locked on. That's fanduel.com/locked on to make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. We're also brought to you today by Ibotta. Ibotta has you covered when you're looking for ways to save money. It's still January. We still got New Year's on our mind. We still are looking ahead to the year. So why not shop and get something in return? Ibotta is a free app that gives you the most cash back every time you shop on hundreds of items, from groceries to beauty supplies to toys, so you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. The average Ibotta user earns $145 per year. That could cover the cost of an entire shopping trip, buy that flight you've been eyeing, that game you're dying to go to, or that fancy dinner you've been craving. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 off for trying Ibotta by using the code LOCKEDONMLB when you register. That's IBOTTA, Ibotta, use the code LOCKEDONMLB when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app to start earning cash back and use code LOCKEDONMLB. That's Ibotta, IBOTTA, in the Google Play or App Store, and use code LOCKEDONMLB. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast. We're free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. And hey, if you are looking for more YouTube sports action from the Locked On Network, well, guess what? Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. You go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. All right. So we were talking about the Rockies' projections of 60.5 wins, 65 wins. So that means if you're going to take the over and you want to hit, you got to get 61 wins, or you don't think the Rockies are going to win more than 60 games. So you take the under. And we went through and looked at the schedule. One thing we didn't mention about the schedule in the first half of in that first segment, the Rockies have two long homestands. They start with, instead of a long road trip to start the season, they just start with a series against the Cubs to start the season in Chicago. Then they come back home and play Tampa and Arizona. They'll also play the Mariners and the Padres later on in the month as well. So they got some opportunities here to take some with long stretches at Coors Field to really show that they can be that home dominant team. The one key thing that you can look at if you're going to take this future bet and track it throughout the year, throughout the rest of the season, is going to be this team's performance at home. I mean, this team, we know that they have the history of performing better at Coors Field, and if they are in fact they're performing as well as we hope they will, this team will hit the 60.5 wins. This team won't lose 100. If this team goes 500 or close, then this team will, at home, they will hit that, because they finished the year last year 37-44 at home. So if you flip 7 games, or let's just we'll take 3, right? We'll take 3. We'll just take 3 games off and add them. So that would put the Rockies at 40-41 at home, that would increase their record, and that would put them under the 100 loss category. I mean, that's been the secret sauce for how this team has avoided 100 losses for so long anyway, was Coors Field. And then the ceiling, though, for this team, if you're going to take the over, I don't feel super comfortable because this has changed. I've brought this up a couple of times here at the offseason. I think if the Rockies really succeed this year, if they play good baseball, I think their ceiling is still only 70 wins. I think the starting rotation, the bullpen, everything is going to be as much as I think this team is going to be better down the stretch in games, as much as I believe that this team hopefully is going to be the one that wins those close ball games, that isn't collapsing in the eighth inning, it's still going to happen. There's still going to be days where the Rockies are just plain and simple outnumbered. And as we talked about when the Rockies did make the free agent moves and added, I am worried about the constant philosophy of pitch to contact, low strikeout rate, ground ball inducing pitchers for the Rockies. If these guys can't hit their spots, it's going to be painful. If these guys, I think that there are going to be stretches of games and stretches of the season that we've seen in the past where the team gets down early and the offense is sputtering and needs to recoup. Because we've seen that happen now consistently for a bit. Really, I mean, we for the whole existence of the Rockies, but especially the last couple of seasons. The thing that the Rockies have not been able to avoid is the bad skid. Is just where they just lose 6, 7, 8 games in a row. They're not scoring any runs. They're squandering opportunities. This team is going to have to get a little creative this year as well. You still look at the schedule and you still hesitate because you get the Athletics, but you got to go to Oakland. You got to go to Pittsburgh. You got a back-to-back at home of Giants and Rangers in May. I mean, you got a lot of good teams, and you got this revamped Dodgers team that you're only going to start seeing more and more of as the season goes on. The Rockies don't really get a break in their record or in their schedule at all. So if this team is going to reach that 70-win ceiling, then, and if they do, we should be enthused. We should be really excited. Because at that point, that's where the Rockies can sit and say, we have something here. We know it's working right now. We know what we need to do. We know where we need to look to improve, and we're going to do so in the offseason. We're going to do so at the trade deadline. Because if you win 70 games next year, that's an 11-game improvement for the Rockies. It's not the playoffs. It's still probably it's still going to be the bottom of the NL West. But if there are those signs of improvement, then that means the plan, the rebuild, the retooling is working. That means the team is getting better, mixed in with the fact that this team is getting healthier at pitching in the second half of the season. What does that mean for Senza? What does that mean for Herman? What does that mean for Quantrill? What does that mean for Hudson? What does that mean? We're going to have to see, because does that mean somebody goes to the bullpen? Does that mean with the Rockies making these moves, and if those pitchers are impressive, that a trade becomes much more likely for one of those Rockies pitchers? Again, I don't really know what you're going to get for pitchers coming back after massive surgeries and not pitching, but we've seen deals with people and stuff with people recovering from injuries for sure. Here's the deal. They might not be great, but I think the Rockies this year are twice as interesting as they were last year. Because at this point, We can be way more excited about the young guys. We can ask these questions about the rotation. We can sit here and wonder what these new pitchers are going to do. Instead of going into the season of, well, CJ Cron's playing first, and are they going to block? Is Tovar going to play? Or are we going to get Jose Iglesias again? And we're going to go Jonathan Daza. We're going to keep Chris Bryant in the outfield. We're going to have Randall Grichuk. We're going to, all those players. I mean, look at those names of position players that aren't on the Rockies going into spring this year. It's not a great team, but it's a better Rockies team. So if I was to go over to FanDuel right now and be confident, I'd take the over. Not by much. Again, I want to emphasize here. I don't think the Rockies are a playoff team. I don't think they're a sleeper, immediately bounce back team. I think they are a team that can be better. I think they are a team that will perform better than 2023. But am I wrong? Let's talk about that coming up in segment number 3. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about our friends at Jase Medical. According to the FDA, there are shortages on antibiotics and amoxicillin and all sorts of stuff right in the middle of a really, really tough flu season. And if you're worried about making sure that you're got what you need, got the antibiotics that you are looking for, Jase Medical might be an option for you. The Jase case is a pack of 5 different antibiotics to treat a long list of bacterial illnesses, including UTIs, respiratory infections, sinusitis, skin infections, among others. Really stuff that could happen to any of us, just like if your lack of access, just like supply chain issues. Remember, there are many things that can get in the way of you getting the things you need. Check out jasemedical.com and complete your physician encounter. It will be reviewed by a board-certified physician, and your medications will be dispensed by a licensed pharmacy at a fraction of the regular cost. That's right. It's a licensed pharmacy, board-certified physician, so you're going to be talking to the right people there at Jase Medical. That's JASEmedical.com. It's never been more important to be prepared than today. Go to jasemedical.com and use offer code LOCKED ON to get $20 off your order. That's $20 off your order at jasemedical.com when you use the code LOCKED ON. One more time, Jase Medical, promo code LOCKED ON to get $20 off your order. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. And we are on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel where you can be part of the show. Fire off your Rockies hot takes. Let me know what's on your mind when it comes to the Colorado Rockies. If you need more great sports coverage, Locked On Sport, we got a 24/7 streaming channel for you here on YouTube. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. All right. Looking ahead here for Locked On Rockies, probably on Friday, we are keeping a very close eye on the Todd Helton Hall of Fame race. I don't know. Is that election? That's what it is. Election. It's going to be really close. Another ballot I saw yesterday of someone dropping Todd Helton. We've done it. We'll do it again. Right now it's not there, but we are definitely keeping our eyes on the Todd Helton situation, and we're going to continue to keep looking ahead for the Rockies here and figuring out what we're going to do. But hopefully maybe I'm going to try to see if I can get someone lined up for Friday's pod to talk to us, talk Todd with us. But of course, the ceremony is next week, so fingers crossed. Keep your fingers crossed out there for our guy Todd Helton. That would be some great Rockies news here this offseason. So I've been talking a lot this episode about how I'm encouraged by the Rockies. I think they're going to hit the over. I think they're a team that can hit a 70-win ceiling. Yada yada yada. Great stuff. Well, what about the bad stuff? This team could be the exact same team as last year. It really could. I mean, we've seen basically this team do what it's doing. We saw it for the second half of the season. Now it's a bullpen that's going to be minus Brent Suter, It's going to be a situation where the Rockies are faced with adversity. I mean, it's a team that is still really banged up. It's still a team with a ton of question marks, and it's a team where you look at the projections and scratch your head and go, huh? They think they're going to be that bad? Remember, the DH core, I believe, if I'm remembering it right, from Fangraphs Zips projections was 0.3 WAR. And that includes Charlie Blackmon and Chris Bryant in that core. If those guys don't contribute, if Chris Bryant doesn't stay moderately healthy, if the pitching acquisitions don't work out for the Rockies, mixed with this schedule, I don't know if it'll be worse than last year, because I do believe at its fundamental core, this team is better than last year's team, at least the first half team. But all of these risks, all of these issues, all of these potential things are certainly are causes of concern. Can the Rockies lose 100 games next year? Yeah, absolutely. If you take the under on that, really, or if you're close on the over, you're still saying the Rockies are going to lose 100 games. If you're taking the under on that, you are confident that this team loses 100 games. And looking at the schedule, knowing the team, I think that's the case. But I don't think it's that crazy to think that the Rockies can go +4 in wins this year and barely eke out a season where they get 99 losses. Is there really that much of a difference? No, but it's not 100 losses. That was the question. That was the prompt. This team can be better. This team can be also par for the course. What we've seen. If the offense of the young guys doesn't improve, if the road offense doesn't improve, and the pitchers can't hit their spots and aren't inducing the weak ground ball contact that they're supposed to be, it's gonna be a long season. It's gonna be a tough season. But I hope the Rockies are the ones that win some of these dogfights, especially against some of these big teams. So I think they're going to get into dogfights. It's just a matter of how this team is going to handle those, and if they can step up and be the ones that win, no matter what the adversity that they're facing as a team, or are they going to be in the same situation as they were last year, burnt out, so close but so far, and fall short. Folks, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for joining us and making us your first listen of the day. Find the YouTube channel. Really, really do appreciate all the support there. Your likes, your subscribes, all that stuff. Really, really helpful. Really, really helps the show. You can find us on your favorite streaming services, all that good stuff. Like I said, we're going to be keeping our eyes on the Todd Helton Hall of Fame election and continuing to look ahead for the Rockies. I'm kind of in a look ahead mode here, a preview type mode for the Rockies this week on the show. So we are going to be doing that coming up. But folks, if you need more podcast action, Locked On MLB's got you covered for your second listen of the day. Or you can check out Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, Locked On Buffs, all sorts of great shows there for your Colorado sports coverage and available for you there. I'm Paul Holden. Find me on, you know what? Just go find the show on YouTube. That's really where I want you to go. Go find the show on YouTube. And until next time, so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.